And welcome everybody to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and this is our Night Terrors, our shorter format shows, and where we get into ghostly encounters and stuff like that. So if you're a fan of the spirit world and want to explore some stories of people coming face to face with the other side, then you're in the right place, because that's what we do here on the Night Terrors, pretty exclusively, as a matter of fact. So I hope you're having a great night. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me. First and foremost, let me tell you that if you have something paranormal of your own that you'd like to share, feel free to call in during the show, throughout the course of the show. And you can do that by dialing 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Those are your numbers for fun right here on the Paranormal Portal, and I hope you will call in and be a part of the journey if you have something to share. I always love the first-hand accounts the best, but I will be bringing you a whole laundry list of allegedly true ghostly encounters that people have recorded and reported, and we'll dive into them and see what the heck is going on out there. But I hope you guys are doing great. Thanks so much. And I guess that's everything on the front end. So hope you're all ready, because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live and underway here on the Paranormal Portal, and got a bunch of great stories lined up to bring you guys tonight. So hopefully they're good stories. I kind of just give it a grab bag approach. I just kind of start opening and stuff, and planning on bringing it to you. But sometimes we end up with some real duds. I don't pre-read them as a rule, because I kind of like to go through these stories with you guys as the first time I'm hearing them. So usually that works out okay, but every once in a while we hit a real turd of a story, and it's like, oh God. A lot of times we'll run into, like, I don't know, some stories and it's hard to say, because who can be the judge, right? But so I don't know. I just got to trust my gut on these. Some of them are just like, really? That's what you experienced? But I don't know. I try not to be too harsh, because one thing I've learned doing the Paranormal Portal is that nobody knows what's possible. Nobody knows what's possible. Nobody is qualified to answer those questions, myself included. But it's my show, and I got a microphone, so what can I say? That's how it works. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. I always say that, but I really do firmly believe it, and mean that I hope you guys are doing great, because it's always a great pleasure to start every show and to see the crowds come in, the many listeners coming in as I go through the shows. It's just a great honor. So I really appreciate so many of you coming in night after night to take part in these shows. It's just a wonderful feeling. So I'm just not used to that many people caring what I have to say. So I'm just joking. Of course, you guys have always been very interested in what I have to say, and I'm very honored by that. So without further ado, I guess we can get into these stories. The first one tonight is coming from Wisconsin. And I don't know, it seemed like my S's are real sibilant tonight. I'm not sure why. Let me play with my EQ a little bit, because I don't know. I don't want to be too over the top with my presentation, but all right, I think that's a little better. I just EQ'd myself a little bit. So the first story is Wisconsin. It has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. And let's get into it. It says, I'm 22 years old now, but when I was 17, I had an extremely terrifying experience that has stayed with me ever since. I was always getting into trouble when I was a teenager. I was kicked out of 2 high schools, ran away multiple times, and made life hard for my parents and myself. It was the summer, and I was in I'll do whatever I want mode. And one day my parents had called and told me I had to come home. I didn't want to, so I said, no way. I want to hang out with my girlfriends. My parents' response was, well, you either come home or you can find somewhere else to live. So I did. I asked my friend if I could get a job and live with her for a while in her apartment, and she wanted some help with the rent, so she said sure. Her apartment was the upstairs of a 150-year-old home that had been split into 4 apartments. The building itself was around 150 years old and has a sign out front with the names of the original owners, and it was one of the first in my hometown. I actually never noticed the sign or that it had history until after I left. Wow. The power of youth. I don't see anything except what I'm interested in. So it says the apartment is pretty spread out, and at the very back of it was the smallest of 3 bedrooms. I made that my room because it was most private, and while it pretty much turned into the smoke room, the first couple of weeks were really fun staying there, and we threw a couple of parties. But after a couple of weeks staying there, I can remember walking home from work, and my friend would be gone, and I'd go up the front door and walk in the wooden stairs to our door, and as soon as I got to the door, the hair would always stand up on my neck because I felt like something was on the other side of the door that really didn't want me there. Of course, I had to go in anyways because I had nowhere else to go. Nothing had actually happened to make me so scared, so I would just go in, get some food, and kind of just sit on the couch with my back to the wall until my roommate got home. One night, I mentioned how I was getting kind of creeped out in the apartment, and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's haunted." She told me that she would often be watching television, and her miniature dog would just bound off the couch and run into my room. She said it would be pitch dark in the room, but he would just stand there barking at the ceiling. However, she never saw anything, and that was pretty creepy considering it was my room, so I opted to sleep on the couch that night. Well, I fell asleep with her little dog curled up next to me, and in the morning is when an extremely frightening thing happened to me. I just remember waking up to a man or something with a man's voice laughing very loudly and tauntingly in my ear. I was immediately struck with terror and confusion. I looked into my roommate's bedroom and saw her sleeping on her bed while this was going on. I tried to yell out for her, but it was like I was frozen and no words were coming out. I had an overwhelming feeling like all of my energy was just being sucked out of me. Words were coming out. I had an overwhelming feeling like all the energy was being sucked out of me, and I just reread the same sentence. On top of what was already going on, after a minute, the entire house started shaking. I can remember thinking, it's lights out. It's light out. I know it's the morning. I can't believe this is happening right now. I think this attack lasted for about 2 minutes. And then whatever it was seemed to be sucked out of the window. It's not that I saw it being sucked out of the window. I just felt it leave that way. My voice returned after another minute, and I called for my roommate. And when she woke up, she said that she had not heard anything. I couldn't believe what had just happened, and I was too petrified to continue living there. I told a couple of people about my experience, but I was so disturbed by it that I did research at the library of the history of the home. I did not come across anyone that had passed away in the home or even anything unusual. I personally believe that what attacked me may have been more than an unrested spirit of a human being. The more time that goes on, the more convinced I am that it may have been a demonic attack. The idea of it scares me to death, but I'm pretty sure that was the point. God bless anyone who's had any experiences with demons. Yeah, it's hard to know. I guess I don't know for sure that I would call that a demon attack, but again, I wasn't there. I didn't experience it, so it's anybody's guess. But generally speaking, demonic attacks are pretty specific. They are generally trying to destroy everything it is that you are. I mean, they try, of course, to oppress and possess. And demons generally play a long game. They don't usually play a real short game like that, where it's just a quick, I'm going to freak you out and then I'm going to leave. Something obviously was doing that for this poor lady, but I don't know that it would be demonic. It might be some other dark entity. There's more than just ghosts and demons and angels. There's so much more out there that is spiritual in existence as far as our perception of them. But some of those things were never human. They were never alive in the traditional body sense. There's always been other things or other manifestations of life in whatever form it is. So I don't know. It sounds like something dark. I'll give that person that, but I don't know. It didn't seem to want to destroy her. It just wanted to feed off of her, which could be a shadow person, could be other types of beings like incubus, succubus kind of thing, which usually manifests as sexually, but not always. Could be something else of that nature. Could be some kind of sylph or nature spirit that's upset for whatever reason. It's hard to know. But I think, again, and I say this a lot, but I think the term demon just gets overused. It's like, it was a demon. It was a demon. Because it scared me. It was a demon. And that's not an accurate criteria for deciding whether something's demonic or not. There are some allegedly very specific signs of a demonic presence, and none of which she described in her story here. But again, she did feel the house shaking, which is pretty profound. That's a very profound display of strength or ability, which, certainly could qualify in and of itself. But there's other hallmarks that usually go on with a demonic attack or an infestation or attempted possession, and than what she described. But anyway, it's anybody's guess. But terrifying all the same, we just don't know. But creepy stuff for sure. All right, the next story, ladies and gentlemen, is coming from the fine state of Texas. Good to see you guys coming in. Thank you all for coming in and being a part of the shows. I'm just looking and seeing who's here. It's great to see you guys. Yeah, awesome. Almost 40 of you in here now. It's the doors get worked pretty hard in the first half hour of all of the shows. It's like, I don't know, the numbers never really plateau until the last half of every show. So we'll see where we end up by the end of it. But thank you all for coming in and giving us a shot. If you're new to the show, thank you so much. And I hope you'll take the time to become subscribed and be a part of what we're doing. And hit the notification bell so that you are, of course, notified whenever we go live. If you want to catch more of our shows, we're always at this. And check the description if you're interested in other ways to help support the portal. So anyway, let's go to the next story. And this one's coming from Texas, as I mentioned. It has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. It says, it was like any other day just sitting with my stepdad watching television when we got a call that my mom was sent to the lockup. Wow. My stepdad left to place bail while I waited. Wow. My younger sister was at a friend's house, so I was happy that I had the apartment to myself. I got a call on the house phone, and unfortunately we only have one phone, and it's in my room. I walked through the hallway to get to the phone when I got a really strange feeling. I looked in the bathroom and the door was wide open. But every time I looked in the bathroom, I was afraid that I would see something in the mirror. Well, I went and answered the phone to find out it was my older sister. She wanted to know if my mom was out yet, and I told her I would have mom call her when she came back. My sister obviously didn't understand that because she kept calling and calling. For the last time I walked up to the phone, I don't even think about looking in the bathroom that time. I answered the phone, and it was a shocker. It was my sister again. And then I heard a loud bang as if someone had walked through the front door. I walked to the front door, but nobody was there, and I went to the couch and watched television. Again, the phone rang. I went to go pick up the phone when I stopped to look at the bathroom mirror. I then realized that the door to the bathroom was closed shut. I started to freak out, but I thought there could be a reasonable explanation for why it was closed. I tried to open it, but it just wouldn't budge. It was as if it was locked. I went to open it one last time, and the door flew open. I went to the shower to see if the window was open, and it was closed shut. Well, I was really freaked out now. I wanted to leave that bathroom, but a stupid hunch came over me to look in the mirror one last time. And then I saw one of the most frightening things I have ever seen. A dark hooded figure hovering behind me. I turned around and saw nothing. I looked back in the mirror and it was still there. And this time, though, it was further back than where it was. I thought this was a good time to get the hell out, so I took off running out the front door, and I stayed outside until my parents came back 7 hours later. It was probably 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I went back in the house later, and the bathroom door was closed. After that incident, I made everyone close the door before leaving. Yeah, that's horrible. Wow. I don't know. These hooded figures are kind of an anomaly. They're kind of a mystery. It's like, what are they? They come up all the time in stories, and it could just be that it's a very old spirit. When maybe people walked around in robes. Maybe it was an old monk. Maybe it was something otherworldly. I don't know. Maybe it's more of a wraith kind of thing. Maybe a dark entity. I don't know. So it's not always easy to tell if something was a person just because it kind of looks like a person, but robed figures are really kind of creepy, and there are many stories of people experiencing these shadowy robed creatures, like waking up in the middle of the night with these creatures around the bed, with like several of them in a circle around the person sleeping and standing there appearing to be doing like almost like a ritual is how it's explained. And of course, right away when you hear that, you're like, yeah. Is that something satanic? Is it something very dark occult kind of thing going on? Is it something else? And it's hard to know. I was just being interviewed for another show out of Florida, and it's a podcast, and we were talking about it, and we talked about the many different types of things, and it's hard to know. It's hard to figure out what it could be, and I suppose this is a case where a psychic would be really handy. If this were my situation, if this were my house, and I had some robed, hooded figure hanging around, I think the first thing I would do is contact a psychic, because you got to know what you're dealing with. And something like that, it could be just... Now, I do believe spirits can appear however they want to, so it could be just something that just wants to look creepy. And what's creepier than some, nebulous cloaked figure? It's kind of the depiction of the death, the classical death looks like death in the cloak of death. I don't know. But there are these stories out there of people seeing shadow beings that look like these robed, hooded figures. And they seem to be almost ritualistic in whatever the hell they're doing. But I don't know if those are just another type of shadow person. I've heard them explained as a very dark type. Like we hear the term shadow people, and that's another one that kind of is a blanket term. Any kind of spirit that appears dark or as a shadow, of course, it's a shadow person, right? But maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm not so convinced. I think there's a whole catalog of things that we perceive that exist spiritually that are not necessarily one or two or three items. They could be a whole catalog of different things that are able to come into our reality in some form or another, and we experience them as a spiritual being, even though they might be very physical in their own experience. And it's just because it might just be a dimensional thing. It might be a multiverse kind of thing. It's hard to know, but very, very creepy stuff. I don't know. That would be pretty unnerving, I would think. Well, let's move on. Go to the next story, and this one is from New York. New York. A lot of things come out of New York. There's always stuff going on in New York. It's obviously a very busy place, but it doesn't surprise me they got a lot of spirits happening over there. I imagine there's a lot of heartbreak in New York and a lot of tragedy. Of course, New York has a pretty challenging history, full of pretty much everything. It's like a microcosm of the world in a sense. New York's like its own world. But anyway, this one has, oh God, I don't think I can read this one. This is an example of stories that I don't like to touch too much. And again, it's not because I don't believe that they happen, but because I just don't believe the material is appropriate for the show I'm trying to give you guys. And, just so you know, this is a story of succubus or incubus attacks. And generally those kind of attacks are very sexual. And that's a topic I don't like to touch too much Again, I'm sure it happens. I'm sure that these experiences are very valid for the people that have them and very terrifying. But, I guess it doesn't really matter. To me, in a nutshell, what I think is it doesn't really matter if it's a sexual kind of attack or if it's a physical attack or if it's a energy attack or whatever. The symptom isn't the problem. It's what it is, and it's some kind of spiritual being preying on people. So, in essence, the solutions are very similar. There may be some specific rituals that are intended to get rid of incubus, succubus, those kind of beings, but generally speaking, they're all kind of gotten rid of the same way, using the same methodologies. So, while it's got to be weird to have these kind of experiences, and this isn't something I've experienced, thank God, because I think it's really creepy. But I still think it's handled the same way, and I don't want to. I know there's some young ears listening to the shows, so I'm going to skip this one just so you guys know. But that's the rationale why, is that it's not really important to talk about how they're attacking, as much as that they are attacking, and it's they do apparently feed off of us, but they exploit that energy through a very specific means, which in this way is very, very sexual, and that's obviously a pretty must be a really horrible experience. I would assume. Maybe it's amazing. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, but I don't think I'd like to find out. This one I'm going to skip too, because I can only do so much sleep paralysis stories, and again, not because I don't believe they happen, but because you hear a few sleep paralysis stories and you've kind of heard them all. They all are very, very, very similar. They're very horrible. That is something I've experienced, but they're all, hey, something was there and I couldn't move and I felt the breathing and I felt like something was sitting on me, pinning me down, et cetera, and then I could move again. So I usually skip over most of those, and that one was kind of long anyway. So this one's from Texas, has to do with lots of different types of experiences. So this one starts as follows. Here's a few paranormal experiences I've had. I didn't mean to say paranormal, I meant to say paranormal. It's the challenge of my palate. When I was a child, I lived in a very small house with my older brother and my parents. Whenever you would walk into the dining room, which was close to the garage, it felt like underneath the floor was hollow. It was so creepy. I would lie in bed at night and hear people talking. For so long, I thought that it was my parents talking, but after years of this went by, I finally asked them, what do you guys stay up all night and talk about so late? They said it's not us. That's terrible. Yet I was informed when I was newborn, my mom had come home from taking my older brother to school and laid me down in my baby bed, only minutes later hearing this evil hiss coming from the room. Ugh. Immediately, my mom got me out of the bed and said there was just one spot by my bed that was so cold. That's creepy, huh? Yeah, it is creepy. Well, when my younger brother was a baby, me and my dad were sitting in the living room and heard the most horrible noise coming from my baby brother's bed and the same cold spot. What could that be? Here's another incident. My ex-fiance's mom had a miscarriage, and when my ex was a child, his mom told me that she would go in his room and he would be talking to himself, and she asked him why, and he said that he was playing with his kid's sister. Well, this is about 2 years ago, and we were on our way home from prom very late on the back roads, and he swerved almost going into the ditch. I said, what are you doing? And he said, I just almost hit a little girl playing in the road. Well, we turned around and nothing was there. We were lying in bed one night when all of a sudden he grabs me and just holding me as close as he can. I saw tears in his eyes. And later that night he told me there was a man killed in that house and that he was a construction worker. He said the man standing over his bed was dressed in construction clothes with a hard hat and had the most evil look in his eyes, looking at me. And he wasn't sure he wasn't sure it wasn't going to harm me. One last story. He had 2 dogs, a Rottweiler and a weenie dog. It's a weenie dog. And there was not really a way the dogs could get out on their own. Well, this house had already proved to be creepy anyways. Well, we walk outside and hear his dog barking inside of the garage. And we walk in there and the dog is just staring at this huge tool cabinet and barking. Well, he grabs the dog to take him to the kennel, and I'm sitting in his truck by myself, and I see this figure in black walk out of the tool cabinet and then right back in. Yeah, I think they need to do some cleansing in that house. Time to get old Construction Joe to head on home to that to that great work site in the sky. You know, it's, again, I don't know. There must be a story there that could be researched. Why could this guy be sticking around? Maybe he was an angry guy. Maybe he wasn't a happy guy. And we talk about that a lot on the show. Why do they stick around? And, you know, it's anybody's guess. But I really firmly believe that in many cases, most of us have grown up with some form of spirituality or religion. And, of course, there are many, many religions which talk of lead a good life or else. You're going to go to, you know, hell or a lake of fire or a purgatory or some other measure of a horrible place. And so I suppose, I mean, when people are jerks, they kind of know they're jerks. So I imagine these people, when they're at the end of their rope, they're like, uh-oh. And, you know, of course, what's left? Well, according to what they learned, maybe what's left is a horrible experience of treading water in a lake of fire or something worse. And so maybe sitting in a tool cabinet's the better option. Maybe that's a lot more, that sounds a hell of a lot better than, trying to swim around some flaming lake. So I guess it does stand to reason. I don't know whether you believe in those kind of things or not. It doesn't really matter. It's whether the people believe that themselves. And so maybe they do linger. Maybe they stay because they know they weren't a good person. Maybe they stick around because the alternative, of course, is absolutely horrifying in their expectations. So, and that seems to make sense to me. I mean, why not? It's better to stay in a garage and that you do know rather than face this horrible torment and unending pain that you're expecting. But next story is coming from Florida. And this has to do with family, friends visits. So usually these are positive stories. I generally like these because, we all have, probably most of us out there have gone through a horrible loss and felt that pain and that emptiness. And how beautiful is it when they come back and let us know somehow, in some manner, in some way, that they're okay. I just always wish everybody could have that experience, because how much easier would the grieving process be if we just had that confirmation? I think it'd be amazing. But let's see what this one says. In 1998, my Aunt Marie, we called her Rye, R-I-E, died of cancer. I was only 4 when she passed, but according to everyone, she loved me dearly, like I was her own child. She used to knit me blankets and wall murals to hang in my bedroom. The last blanket she sewed was rainbow colors. But it was never finished because she passed before it was completed. My mother was Rhee's favorite sister, and was also the last person to talk to her before she died, telling her it was all going to be okay. About 2 weeks after her death, I was sleeping in bed next to my mom, and apparently something made my mom wake up in the middle of the night and sit straight up. She told me she saw my Aunt Rhee standing at the front of the bed, smiling. Her long blonde hair was down and she was wearing fresh, pretty clothes. She didn't speak. She just stared at my mom for a long time. And then looked over at me as well, still smiling. Well, my mom got a little scared, so she went back to bed. And Aunt Rhee never returned. For a long time, my mom told no one because she thought everyone would just say she was crazy. But then one night, in an argument with my grandfather, my mom told him that she had seen Rhee. And all of a sudden, my grandfather looked like he was about to cry, saying, that he wished that Ree would visit him, but she never did. My question is, why did Ree visit that night? Was she there to just visit? Or is she there all the time, and we just don't see her? The place where my mom had seen her was a bedroom in my grandparents' house. We don't live with them anymore, of course, but when I visit them every summer, I sleep in that bedroom, and I always hear strange noises at night and get really scared. Is she my guardian angel just to look over me? I guess that's a great thought, and I don't see why not. I don't see why our loved ones after they pass wouldn't look over us. I've wondered about this too, because I had a nice experience with my own father after he passed, and my grandmother as well on a separate occasion. It seems that if I'm going to get these visits, and I think I do, not consistently, but I have had these visits with my loved ones that have passed, and it's always in the dream state. So for me, that seems to be where I experience these kind of reunions, and they're just beautiful, and they're so powerful, and they're just every bit as real as me sitting here talking to you. They are so incredibly lucid and amazing, and I think maybe we all get those visits. It's just that maybe we don't all remember them. Like normally, I don't remember my dreams. I don't remember any of my dreams. I might hold on to an idea for a few minutes after I wake up, but then poof, it's gone. I'm not a good recall person in that manner. But these experiences that I had with my dad and my grandmother and others that have come to me that way, I still remember very vividly. They were so powerful. And that's really what makes me believe that they could very well be real. And, believe it or not, it's up to you, but maybe we all get those experiences, but we just don't recall them. I do think that they're around us. I think that, of course, the fact that these people have passed on doesn't mean that love has changed in any way. That love persists. I'm just sure of it. And I'm sure that they do look over us. They do watch over us. So many, many times we've covered stories of people seeing their deceased loved ones coming in some form or another, or appearing at the time when things are the hardest, and giving them a smile and just giving them a reassurance of some kind. So I think that, it probably just varies by the person. Are you receptive enough to Pharmacy says, I remember very few of my dreams. Yeah, that's me completely. I don't really recall them. And, but that doesn't mean they didn't exist. It's just, I know I'm dreaming. Because I can sometimes remember little pieces for a little bit after I wake up, but then they're gone. But these experiences are so incredibly hyper real. And amazingly enough, they seem more real than my waking life. And so that's why I believe they very well may be very real. But again, it's up to each individual to find, whether or not that makes sense to them, whether or not they want to embrace that or not. This show will never be about telling you what to believe. I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm sharing my beliefs, and you can either listen to them or just discard them. That's, of course, your choice. But I hope that we all get them. But if we all had that recall and could recall those experiences, grief would not be nearly as poignant and painful. I really believe that. It may still be lonely, and that doesn't take away the pain completely, but it certainly makes that a little better, knowing that those people we loved are okay. All right, this next story is coming from Minnesota, my old stomping grounds. This one is a short one, but it is sleep paralysis, so I'll just read it because I've got it pulled up here. 10 years ago, when I was 13, I believed I had a paranormal experience. I was sleeping in my bedroom, which I shared with my younger brother, who was 9 years old at the time, and I remember waking up at 2:45 for no reason. Then staring at the alarm clock, trying to get back to sleep, and as I sat up from my bed and looked towards my brother's bed, I heard the floors creak right outside the bedroom doors. Oh, that's horrible. I remember turning my head and shifting my attention towards the door only to catch it swing open with a dark figure standing in the doorway. I was terrified. I turned towards my little brother to yell for him to wake up, but to no avail because no sound was coming from my mouth. The dark figure then sat down at the foot of my bed, forcing me down with heavy weight and pressure on my body. I began to toss and turn, and finally, with all of my strength, I was able to squeak out a cry for help. And the dark, shadowy figure dissipated, and I was free. I turned on the lights and slept with them on for about 3 months, and to this day, I still have goosebumps telling this story. Please don't criticize this story as being false. I don't have a sleep disorder, and it was not a dream. I still remember it like it happened yesterday. The address I'm living at the time was, it's in St. Paul, 391 Jessamine Avenue, St. Paul. Wow. No, there's no doubt. I don't know that that's, it's not really sleep paralysis in that sense. I don't know if it's even, it's kind of like the old hag attack. Like sleep paralysis, it can be spiritual in nature as well. I do believe that there's a clinical sleep paralysis that is just the transition of the mind to the waking state. And perhaps some of the chemical that's released in our bodies doesn't get quite burned up yet. So we can't move. Like we get stuck just for whatever reason until that generates out of our system and it's clear. And then we can function normally. But, in a case like this is definitely a spiritual attack. And I don't know what. So it pinned him down and it was able to squeak out a help and then it left. But what was the purpose of that? Was it just intimidation? Or was it actually drawing on his life force while it was pressing him or her down? I don't know. But very creepy. Those kind of situations are ugly. Very ugly. Night terrors. Renee Drew. How you doing, Renee? Who's all here? Let's just see who's here now. We've had a little while to see who'd come in the door. So the list is kind of short. It says Aaron Heisner, Aussie Tiger, Brad Forsey, Cha-Cha, Dee Swagger, Ethan Steele, Louis Ta, Lydia Robertson, Mary Bond, Miss Real Dill, Nessie, I'm here, Paranormal Portal, Paul Holland, Renee Drew, Rob K, and the farm is here. So good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. Thank you all for coming in. That's awesome. Let me get back to the main thing. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. That would be great. We appreciate meeting new friends and family members, as the case may be, depending on the involvement you want in the portal. You may not want to be family. We're kind of dysfunctional, but who isn't? So that's a night, some kind of sleep paralysis / spiritual attack. This one almost sounds more cryptid. So I guess we're going to get that. I got a few more I'm opening up here. God, the time is flying. Jeez. All right, this next one is Mothman or Devilbird. Wow. Coming from South Carolina. Has to do with non-human entities. I think I'm going to highlight that and pull that up for another time. But, okay. Has anyone out there ever experienced or know of someone who has experienced seeing a large, black, winged figure flying around and then having a close relative pass away after seeing this thing? There was a movie based on the events starring Richard Gere called The Mothman Prophecies, which is about people experiencing seeing these creatures and then having something horrible happen afterwards. Well, my grandfather has twice seen one of these devil birds rise up out of the ground and fly off into the trees. And each time that he's seen one, a very close relative of his has died within the next couple of days. That's a terrible foreboding. I didn't witness it, but the last time my granddad had seen one, I was in the house when I heard him yell to my brother to go get his shotgun. I came outside too late to see it, and that was when he described it as a huge black creature with wings that came up out of the ground and flew through the trees. Well, it looked like it should have been too big and would collide with the trees, but basically flew into the trees and just vanished. A couple of days later, we found our granddad in the backyard crying uncontrollably. He had just found out that a relative he was very close to had died unexpectedly. Several years later, when I was in the military, I related this story to some friends and asked if any of them had a similar experience. One guy in the group mentioned that when he was a kid, he and some other kids were watching a TV program about the handicapped. Well, being ignorant kids, they spent a lot of time laughing at the people who had these various afflictions, and after the program ended, they decided to go outside and to play. By the time it was dark outside, they were standing around talking, and he said he heard the flapping of wings and looked up to see this giant black bird-looking thing flying above them. Well, it scared them so bad that they all ran back inside, and I asked him if anything happened in his family after seeing the creature. And he said that his grandmother had died soon afterwards. I guess that seeing one of these Mothmen or whatever they are is an omen suggesting that something bad will occur. I hope to never experience it. That is wild. Huh. You know, I've of course, the Mothman is always supposed to be a portent. It seems to foretell some dire event about to take place, and that's tough. Is there merit to it? Well, obviously it kind of surfaced in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, when the bridge collapsed. Prior to that collapse, this winged creature was seen on the bridge that looked like a man with big wings. Now, there's also claims that the same kind of creature was seen in New York just prior to 9/11. There's also claims that this kind of creature was seen in Minnesota prior to the bridge collapse there. Hell, there's even claims that it was in the USSR in Russia, near Chernobyl, in the Chernobyl reactor area. There are allegedly reports of people witnessing some giant winged being flying around. So perhaps it is. I don't know. I will say, though, that these I haven't watched the Mothman Prophecies movies, and I haven't read the book, so I don't know if it's relating to these very personal experiences, or if it's more of these macro experiences like the bridge collapses, like in Minnesota and in Point Pleasant, or the Twin Towers falling, or Chernobyl going into meltdown. I don't know if the Mothman Prophecies deals with individual people seeing this and having individual tragedies occur, but I guess it's possible. I don't know. It is very interesting, though. I don't know what to think of it. Is the Mothman some super intelligent thing that's working in our best interest, or is it just a foretelling? Is it just a symbol? I don't know. But it is very, very interesting, and our histories are full of these omens. Be careful, if you see this, then it could mean this, and our cultures are filled with those as well, and superstitions and such like that. And I guess anything's possible, but I tend not to try to believe too much in those things, because I hate to think that everything is just kind of a dice roll, so to speak. I'd like to think that there's a higher meaning to all this, and maybe that is, and maybe I'm missing it somehow, but I don't know. It's just me. Let's go to the next one, and this one is coming from Ohio, which is absolutely a hotbed of activity. Oh, this one has some photos attached to it, so we may have something to view here just a sec. It has to do with photographs. So I've been connected with the spiritual realm for a few years now. My first experience being in Washington, Pennsylvania, when I saw a shadow person clearly shaped like a woman move across my kitchen. And that one was when I was merely 7 years old. I've also had other encounters, which I've posted to other sites in order to find more answers from a broader source. However, ever since someone explained it to me that I was what was called a spirit medium, I've been getting visited much more. It's become slightly disturbing as things move unexpectedly around me, and I constantly hear noises such as loud cries, my name, or heavy breathing. So most of these experiences have been happening either in my home or at my college campus. Just recently, I bought a camera and have started to take pictures. And as I was running through them today, I was startled by an orb, which I've never given credit to beforehand, which appeared in my photo, and it is in Franklin Hall of Columbus State Community College. Let me see. I don't know. I guess I'll look at these after we get done. I found this rather strange as I was moving through Franklin Hall, which I always get shivers when entering or exiting through the door facing the parking lot, and towards the Center for Technology. I was distracted by a plaque to my left, and I read it, and I found this that contains everything I've learned about the dark secret behind Columbus State Community College. Does anyone else have an experience at this college? Wow. Let me look at these pictures and see what they're talking about. Oh, no. It's a very, very faint lens flare. I don't think this is... No, I'm not going to bother with it, guys, because I'm pretty sure that this is not what they think it is. It's just a little nebulous ball. It's obvious... To me, it's obviously a reflection, so... We're not going to put that on screen, but interesting nonetheless. Okay, the next one is from Michigan. Jeez. I'm sorry, I just had to check something there. Had a little notification pop up. So, Michigan, pets and animals. This one has to do with pets. I love the idea that pets are still around us. I think that they do. I think that when we have a pet, it becomes like a soul contract of sorts. I don't think that these are just little fuzzy things that we take care of and then they die. I think that something is very profound, like a profound connection between a loving pet owner and their pet. And it almost supersedes a lot of other kind of connections, like, it's like they're a part of us. It's the best way I can describe it. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they would stick around and be still in our vicinity even after their passing. It's like, I love, there's a story, I think it's called the Rainbow Bridge or whatever, where the pets go to wait for us and then they'll rejoin us as we go on to eternity. But I don't think that they just sit in this one place, and I think that they're probably always around us in some measure, and they are a part of us. And, perhaps their presence in our lives serves a stronger purpose than just companionship. Like, it's believed, for instance, cats. If you like cats, I love cats. I love dogs too. But that cats, when they purr, are processing energy. And I've heard that ever since I was young. And that they are very good to have around because they will help to process the energy. They're also very aware of the other realms and can act as a barometer, or at least an indicator if there's something spiritual around. And I believe that pets do pick up on this stuff much quicker than we do. I think that they are really connected to that. Dogs are constantly barking at things that aren't there, and sometimes it can just be dogs being dogs, but sometimes it can be really weird. Like, why does he always go over to the corner and bark? Why is that? What's going on in that corner? So it's hard to know, but I think these animals are very, very much in tune with the natural balance, the energy balance, an awareness that goes beyond our physical world. I think that, like, I do believe, like, we're multidimensional energies as well, but we just don't know it. But I don't think pets ever forget it. Like, these animals don't forget it. Like, it's just a part of their experience. So I think that having pets in your life, it's of course very therapeutic. In the case of dogs, they can help you stay safe. But I think both dogs and cats and other pets can help you on many other levels too, as in the forms of maybe like similar to a totem kind of animal in First Nations beliefs. But, again, believe what you want. It's not not the scope of the show, but Farm says, scientific evidence of their purr frequency for healing. Oh, okay. I did not know that. Well, then that corroborates what I'd heard growing up. I was around a lot of very esoteric people growing up, and had a lot of conversations at a very young age about this kind of stuff. So it's neat to see that there's a validation for that, that they can be very their frequency heals. That's really cool. So let me read this story from Michigan and we'll find out what this is all about. It says, this isn't a scary story, or this isn't really a story. It says, it's just a different experiences. We built our house 4 years ago, and we remember when we bought the property that the guy we bought it from said 120 or so years ago, a farmer owned it. The farmer was plowing the field with his horse when it was shot by a local hunter. Oh, God. That's not a good hunter. If you can't tell it's the horse, you really should not be hunting. The horse dropped dead, and the farmer buried it right there. And he said he hears the horse at night when he's plowing or combining. I thought he was joking, but during the night, I wake up to sounds of a horse whinnying and galloping, and I've never heard of a ghost horse before. The closest horses are 2 to 3 miles away, so I didn't think it's them, and I've never actually seen it. It's been happening for a year or so. The first time it happened, I thought one of the local horses just got loose, so I went outside and nothing was there, so I just figured it had ran away. Well, I called all the people with horses nearby, and they all had their horses. I just thought it was weird. I heard the horse again a few nights later, and then I remembered what the guy we bought the property said to us. So I figured it is that horse. If it really is a ghost horse, how would you people recommend communicating with it? I really do not know where to start. I've read a bunch of other stories about people communicating with spirit ghosts, but they're all deal with talking. Obviously, horses do not know English. Is it me, or are ghost animals possible? Yeah, they're possible. I firmly believe that. I've mentioned it on the show at least 30 or more times, but my mom had a little Maltese, and it was a cute little dog, a little white fluffy thing. His name was Tucker, and my mom and this dog were just bonded, really close. Wherever she went, this little dog went with her. She just loved it. But he got sick and he died, and it was really a heartbreaker. I don't know what it was exactly. There's something to do with his blood or some parasite or something. But he got sick and died, and it was just such a heartbreaker for my mom because they were so attached to each other. I mean, wherever she went, the dog wanted to be, and wherever he went, was always with her. So they were really just attached. And when it passed, it was a while, but she started to tell me, and she still says she still feels it to this day. When she goes and lays down in her bed, she can still feel him jump up on the bed and do his little pacing around thing that he always did every night. And then he would find the spot. Like there's this magical criteria he was looking for every time. But when he found it, he would just dump. He'd just land there and just go right to sleep. And she says she still feels that to this day, every once in a while. It's not every night, but she still has that sensation. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't think I've ever, I had a German Shepherd that was a wonderful dog. I just loved her. And she got old. She just lived a long life and got old and passed away. But I've seen her in my dreams too. And I've literally woke up crying, calling to her. She came and see me. And then it's like she'd look off in the distance, then look at me, then look off in the distance, and just reluctantly would have to go. And I was like, no. And I would call her, but she wouldn't come. And it was just like, no, I don't want you to go. And then I woke myself up yelling for her. And I was like, Zena. And I woke up and I just had these tears going down my face. And of course, I miss her. It's just such a gentle, wonderful spirit this dog had. And I do think that maybe she visits. Maybe she's here all the time. She was really attached to my oldest child as well. So I figured she probably splits her time between us. So anyway, just a cool story. I don't know what you guys think about these nature spirits, these animal spirits. Do you think they stick around? Do you think they continue to be a part of our lives? I do. I really believe that. But if any of you have had experiences like that with a spirit of an animal you loved that still makes their presence known, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear from you. And you can always reach out to me with your stories. You can email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, And I will be happy to either share your story on your behalf or have you come on the show and share it yourself. You can call in or you can email me. Those are always your options. But I'd love to hear if you've got a story of your very own like that. I think that those are very powerful, beautiful, beautiful things. And to be honest, I hope they are around us. I hope they don't leave us, because it's kind of cool to think that they might still be there doing their animal things to help us through this world. So, but that's about all I got for you guys tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the journey. Paranormal Portal. Maybe you could do a show one night each week that's age restricted, so you can cover. I really don't want to though. It's just that they are. See, the thing with succubus incubus attacks is that they are a spiritual attack, and so again, it's the semantics. Do they attack by pinning you to the bed and sucking your life force through your mouth, like a lot of the shadow or night hags attacks are believed to do, or is it more of a sexual arousal way? They're both doing the same thing. It's just the different methodologies. And I'm not really interested in talking about sexual experiences on the show. So I appreciate your idea. I mean, I love that you're thinking like that. Don't get me wrong, but it's just, I don't know. I just don't want to go there. So, but the stories are out there. If you're interested, you can sure find them. There's plenty of them out there. But anyway, again, that's about all I got though. So I love y'all extremely. Thank you so much to all 69, 70 of you that are coming with us through this journey. Looks like we made it up to 69 people hanging out with us tonight. Very cool. I hope those of you that are new will get subscribed and hit the bell so you know when we're live next. Love to have you as part of the family going forward. So that's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow night with the 2-hour show on Friday nights. So I hope you'll join me then. We'll go through all kinds of crazy, wild stuff, including some people that apparently reportedly have lived with Bigfoot. So we'll go through an article detailing some accounts of people who say they've lived with Bigfoot or Bigfoot has lived with them. So should be interesting. But anyway, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And again, I'll be back tomorrow, Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on YouTube. So I hope you'll join me then. Check the description. There's some links down there you might be interested in. So I hope you guys will keep coming back. But that's it for me. Good night and sweet dreams.